Welcome into PFF Studios. Austin Gayle here with Cam Mellor. We are looking at a preview of college football week 7 presented to you by Eckrich, and we got a lot of good games to talk about. I want to start Clemson, Florida State. Florida State isn't the powerhouse it once was, but this is still a good game between two conference opponents.
This is a team that has kind of started to get on a roll, so to speak, for FSU standards of the past 5 or 6 years. This is a team led by Alex Hornibrook that may present some troubles for a Clemson defense that rattles around their safeties. They roll things around, they roll coverages through. Hornibrook has been able to find the open receiver more often than not, but I think the biggest threat to Clemson right now after their scare against UNC a week ago is this interior pressure from FSU. Marvin Wilson, Corey Durden, a bunch of big-name players there in the middle of that defense that can push the pocket and force some errant decisions by Trevor Lawrence.
Clemson coming off a bye, got 2-week preparation for FSU. I'm worried. I think Trevor Lawrence could come in there and dice it up, but we'll see. Oklahoma at Texas. I think Sam Ehlinger looks great. Colin Johnson. Texas looks very good. Oklahoma, though, can put up points in bunches. Jalen Hurts on pace for Heisman consideration at the very least. CeeDee Lamb looks also very good. Both offenses can put up points.
Absolutely. This is a back to the days of the Red River shootout. This is what we're going to be. Hopefully we get a shootout. Hopefully we get some good defensive performances. I think we will. There are some sneaky good Oklahoma cornerbacks the first time in a long time. Parnell Motley, Jaden Davis there as well. But Devin Duvernay, a sneaky good guy, filled in for Colin Johnson during the absence. Johnson should return healthy, but Duvernay has not dropped a pass since 2017. Reliable hands for Ehlinger, and if they get Ehlinger some design carries, Texas can make some waves against Oklahoma.
And with Duvernay, too, he's thriving in the slot, but they moved him out a little bit with the Colin Johnson injury. I think that's an interesting name to watch moving forward. Let's go to Alabama, going to Texas A&M. I think that'll be a great game. Alabama is still looking very dominant. Tua Tagovailoa and Jerry Jeudy look like the best of their positions, and Henry Ruggs and Devontae Smith. There's just so much talent on Alabama's side of the ball. I think maybe this could be lopsided. What's your take on this one?
I think it's going to be a little lopsided. I think this is maybe the stiffest test they get defensively wise. I know Texas A&M doesn't necessarily have the best defense on paper. They did get beat by Auburn pretty handily through the passing game, and we've seen now the Auburn offense not necessarily look so good against Florida this past week, but A&M does present the challenge that maybe Alabama has not faced yet. A couple of different dominant corners, so maybe we get the first chance to see Jalen Waddle as a wide receiver 4, but possibly wide receiver 1 this week for the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Going to the Big Ten, Penn State taking on Iowa. Stanley did not look good against Michigan's defense. That Michigan front 4 looks very good against what was a talented Iowa offensive line. That could cause problems for them. And Penn State, we've seen it time and time again. They can put up a lot of points and in a hurry. KJ Hamler having a great year to start. I think this game, I don't know, Iowa did not look good against Michigan. I think Penn State could come out with a win.
Yeah, it's Sean Clifford big-time throws coming at you at a pretty fast pace here, I'm pretty sure. Clifford has shown now the past week, 2 weeks here, to be a big-time throw machine. KJ Hamler has exploded into perhaps maybe one of the Big Ten's 1 or 2 most explosive receivers, a guy after the catch who can get the job done. And right now, I don't know if Iowa's speed on defense, it will finally be tested. We did see a couple of lapses against Nico Collins against Michigan. So I do think that Hamler can explode over the top against some maybe, use his speed to get past the Hawkeyes.
One of my favorite matchups coming up for this weekend is Florida LSU. Two very good quarterbacks that are playing well right now. Joe Burrow is one of the highest graded quarterbacks in football, flying up draft boards. And Kyle Trask, who's coming in for the injury there, is a very humble guy. That, the interviews are always funny because he's not really into himself and is not cocky at all. I think Trask balling out right now for Florida, had a big upset over Auburn. I think this game is going to be very, very good.
This is one of those sneaky good games that you pencil in and you hope it's very good. They don't like each other. Florida LSU do not like each other. The rivalry runs deep through all these kids. They've known each other for a long time for the most part, but the difference is in the quarterback. Trask now only 3 or 4 starts under his belt. Yes, he beats Auburn. I do think Auburn was a little bit overrated going into Gainesville. This is a chance that we get to see Joe Burrow, though, finally face some adversity. We think the edge of defenders, if Zuniga can go, but I don't think so. So we have Grenard filling in for Zuniga. This defense for the Gators will be the best that Joe Burrow gets to face, and how he fares against them will go a long way, not only his draft stock, but his Heisman candidacy.
Couldn't agree more, absolutely. Going back to the Big Ten, Michigan State, Wisconsin. Wisconsin really looks like they can't lose right now. Jonathan Taylor is running through wide open holes and forcing missed tackles at the second level. And Michigan State, coming off a bad loss to Ohio State, Chase Young was feasting on that offensive line. I don't really see this one coming close.
No, you get Zach Bond potentially coming up with a monster game on the edge for Wisconsin. But right now, let's face it, Wisconsin's defense has allowed 4 touchdowns. They've scored 3 of their own. This is a defensive unit that could rival any defensive unit across the country, and they're not even getting talked about because that's how dominant they are on offense right now. Jonathan Taylor, goes over 100 yards, goes over 200 yards. It's no big deal, no surprise right now. He's scored on every opening possession so far this season. Jonathan Taylor has on the ground or through the air. This is a Jonathan Taylor-led team with probably the best defense maybe that nobody's talking about.
USC going to Notre Dame, going to South Bend. This is going to be a tough matchup for USC. Notre Dame coming off a dominant win over Bowling Green. Yes, it's Bowling Green, but they show they can be dominant when called upon. I think the edge defenders for Notre Dame are some of the best in football. Khalid Kareem being one of the stars there. I think this is going to be a very tough matchup for USC to go into South Bend and come out with a win.
This is tough. We saw the high and the low of Matt Fink, quarterback at USC, coming in as the third stringer and balling out, beating Utah, and then he follows it up with a dud the next week. So they get this week off. They get this time to prepare. It is Matt Fink going forward. Do they go into South Bend and get this? I don't think so. I think advantage Ian Book, advantage Notre Dame. Ian Book, though, looked tremendous against Bowling Green, all in the first half as well. The majority of his positively graded plays. Book looks the deal and looks the part. I think Notre Dame, but I think it's a little bit closer because that air raid offense presents problems for Notre Dame.
Next, we have Nebraska going to Minnesota to take a very under the radar 5-0 team in Minnesota. Rashad Bateman playing very well. Tyler Johnson. There's a ton of receiving talent there. I think that offense for Minnesota overall is pretty underrated. And I think Nebraska, struggling offensively, has really started. Even in the Scott Frost era, has not really become dominant in the Big Ten yet. I think this one again, not something you'd see. You don't expect Minnesota to come out of this one with an L.
No, and I do think it'll be a little bit tougher though. I think Adrian Martinez is a guy who keeps this Scott Frost offense on schedule, just like Mackenzie Milton did, except Martinez doesn't quite have this downfield throwing ability that Milton had, this ability to buy time and then still look to throw. If Martinez can develop that aspect of his game instead of buying time in the pocket, evading pressure, and then scrambling, I think if Martinez keeps his eyes downfield, that's where the problems present themselves with Antoine Winfield in the secondary. But I think this possibly, the Minnesota Golden Gophers have maybe, outside of Alabama, outside of Clemson, the best receiving core. Again, it's like Wisconsin's defense. You're not talking about them. We're not talking enough about Minnesota's trio at wide receivers. Tyler Johnson, you have to double him essentially. Bateman will make a big-time catch over you, and Chris Altman-Bell will make you miss. In the secondary, at the second level, trio of receivers at Gophers for the win.
Let's finish it with the Pac-12, Washington at Arizona. Aaron Fuller, very exciting talent there in the Washington secondary. Low-key DBU. They have so many talented secondary members. But I also want to talk about Arizona. Jace Whitaker, the corner. He should see some Aaron Fuller. I think this is a sneaky good defense in Arizona. Should be a good game. Washington coming off. Not a great look this past week.
No, not a great look at all. Arizona does go into Colorado as well and get the win. Khalil Tate, healthy. And if Khalil Tate is healthy, he'll run by anybody in the secondary, at the linebacker, at the first level. Khalil Tate is as exciting as a player as we've seen in college football in recent memory, and if he's healthy, again, key optimal word for Tate, healthy against that defense, because the Huskies still have one of the best defenses in the country, albeit against, they lose to Stanford coming off this. I think they're mad, angry, chip on their shoulder, and they contain Khalil Tate like nobody has.
That's going to do it for our college football Week 7 preview. Remember to go to EckrichFootball.com to sign up to throw for $1 million. And for more content like this, go ahead and subscribe to PFF's YouTube channel, or go ahead and go to the site at PFF.com.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.